Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Karen, and in this video I'm going to be telling you my top 10 books of the year. So in 2017 I read a total of 56 books and I enjoyed pretty much all of them. I discovered a lot of great new stories, a lot of great new authors, but when it came time to compile this list, it was pretty obvious the books that were going to be in there, and I cannot wait to tell you about them. So the number 10 spot goes to the only non-fiction book in this list, and that is I Am Malala, the girl who stood up for education and got shot by the Taliban. This is written by the very famous, very inspiring and courageous Malala. We all know her, we all love her. She's an incredibly important and powerful voice for the future generations and for the current generation. I can't believe that it took me so long to read it. She chronicles her life growing up in Swat Valley in Pakistan and how everything really changed under Taliban rule. You really leave this book with a sense of your own privilege if you are somebody, especially from the West, who has always been given an education, because education is so extremely important and valuable, and Malala values it so much, and her friends in Pakistan valued it so much. And to see the harsh reality that there are so many children out there that, due to circumstances that come from their social economic stance, that come from their gender, that come from their government, you know, when you see that there's so many children out there in the world that want to be educated, that want to grow up to be professionals, but just can't because they don't have the opportunity. Like I said, it makes you incredibly aware of your privilege. Malala is an incredibly important person, and she is just a hero. I think that this book should be in every school curriculum, and there are definitely harsh moments in this book, especially when she talks about what it was like to be shot at 15 years old. She doesn't shy away from the harsh reality of that and from the terror of that, but I thought that it was just beautiful. It was also beautifully written and just a very powerful story overall. The number 9 spot goes to a short story collection, which is very exciting, and that is Things We Lost in the Fire by Mariana Enriquez. Mariana Enriquez is an Argentinian author, and Argentina really comes across in this short story collection. This is a dark, horrific, tension-filled collection, and honestly it is just amazing. I will read anything that Mariana Enriquez comes out with in the future. The stories are so intense. You have stories in here about crazy neighbors, about drug addicts, about missing children, about ghosts and haunted houses. This is just a fantastic collection, and if you're someone that really enjoyed The Power by Naomi Alderman, then I think that you should pick up this collection just for the final story alone. I think that the final story in this collection is so incredibly powerful. It's about women burning themselves and what that means and why they do it. And it is a story that has been on my mind since the moment that I first read this book months ago. I think I read this book like towards the beginning of the year, and it has not left my mind. Mariana Enriquez is an incredibly mesmerizing author, and I am not someone that really goes for this type of stuff. I don't read horror. I never really read thrillers or anything like that, but this book had me on the edge of my seat. I was so invested in every single story, and I was so scared because the tension that Enriquez is able to create is so palpable and is just amazing. The number 8 spot has to go to The Light Tree by Frances Hardinge. If you don't know what this book is about, it's about a young 14-year-old, I believe. Her name is Faith Sunderly. She lives in the Victorian era, and she has a scientific father, and for some reason they have to very quickly leave London and go to this sort of remote, isolated island. Nobody really knows why. They go there as a family under really mysterious circumstances, and somehow, I'm not going to tell you how, but Faith discovers a magical tree that if you feed it a lie, it will return with a truth. So this was just a delight to read. It's an adventure book filled with a really fantastic main character, Faith as a main character is incredibly curious, and there are a lot of feminist undertones in this. I thought that Frances Hardinge was so clever in her usage of the different dynamics, specifically between Faith and her younger brother, to showcase how young men and women were treated and how they were brought up to kind of play roles in society. It's just a fantastic book. It is a middle grade sort of story. I just adored it. I had so much fun reading this. I was immersed in the story from page 1 all the way to the end, and it has awesome female scientists. The twists were great. It had beautiful language, and it's just a must read for everybody. Number 7 is The Improbability of Love by Hannah Rothschild. This is a book all about what happens when a chef that knows nothing about art buys a random painting and it turns out to be a masterpiece. This is really a satire piece on the art world and on all of the crazy characters that you find in the art world. You have Russian oligarchs, you have art critics, art buyers, you have fans of art. It is just such a great book, and it's not one for everybody. I think that you have to have a love of art and a love of art history to really pick this up and enjoy it and immerse yourself in it, but it is just a great book. There are a lot of twists and turns, and it's kind of a thriller at some points, and there's this mystery going on. And I just had such a fun time reading it. There was also some chapters that were written from the painting's perspective, which was just genius in my opinion. I think that this is a really accomplished book. And like I said, it might not be for everyone. Some people may get lost, some people may get bored because it is quite lengthy. But for me, I enjoyed every bit of it, and I loved it so much that I had to include it in my top 10 books of the year. Number 6 goes to a young adult novel, which is so exciting, and that is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I never expected to really love a Rainbow Rowell book, but I absolutely adore Carry On. It was one of the most fun reads that I had this year. I want to read it again just because it was so damn fun. I loved every bit of it. If you don't know what it is, it's about Harry Potter fan fiction. Basically, you have this character that is obviously modeled after Harry Potter. His name is Simon Snow. He is the worst chosen one to ever be chosen, ever. And he has a vampire roommate by the name of Bass, and he is kind of in love with this roommate, but he doesn't know that he's in love. I just loved this. This was so cute. I would read any other book with these characters in this world. The magical system was also incredibly cool. The magical system in this book was really innovative and really cool. It was all about common words and phrases, and the more that people say a specific word or a specific phrase, the more that power that it has. So for example, if you say a very funny kind of ridiculous saying and it gets picked up and people keep saying it and people keep saying it for generations and generations, it becomes a magical spell. So I thought that that was absolutely brilliant, so fun. I loved all the cast of characters. The mystery was great. There were dragons. It was just so fun, so fun. Number 5 is a silent graphic novel, and that is The Arrival by Sean Tan. This is a book about immigration, and it's just such a genius move to make a book about immigration be a silent graphic novel so that everyone can understand it and everyone can feel something when they read it or when they look at the pictures. It is beautifully illustrated. It brought tears to my eyes. It is gorgeous. It is about a man that has to move to another country and leave his family behind. He has to start out, he doesn't know the language, he has to find work, and the reason why he moves is because he wants to at some point be able to bring his family to this new place so that they can have a new life. There's a magical element to the story. It is gorgeous. Like I said, as an immigrant, it really tugged on my heartstrings. I absolutely adore it, and I think that it is probably my favorite graphic novel that I have ever read, and it has no words, so think about that. Number 4 goes to the Man Booker winner, Lincoln in the Bardo by George Sanders. This book was amazing. I want to see a Lincoln in the Bardo play at some point in my life. It is a book about grief, and it is a book about what it's like to move on, what it's like to lose the people that you love. about life, about death. It is so incredibly powerful. I am so glad that I can say that this won the Man Booker Prize this year because in my opinion, it is so incredibly worthy of it. The whole book takes place in one night and is so incredibly powerful. George Sanders writes in a way that is completely innovative, and he does it in a masterful way. When you first pick up this book, you are going to be scared by it. You're going to be intimidated. I know I was, but please, please keep on reading because what you get at the end is such a worthy payoff. It was absolutely beautiful. I teared up reading it, and it was just such a stunning, stunning experience. The number 3 spot goes to a classic, and that is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. This tells the story of Margaret Hale. She is a young woman in the Victorian era. She lives in the South, and then she moves to a town called Milton. This is an industrial town, and her life changes due to this. This is an industrial novel that's basically Pride and Prejudice in the Victorian era, and my God, is it amazing. I am in love with this. I want to marry this book. I want to read it 800 times. I am just so in love with this. Margaret as a main character is brilliant. She is so sassy and spoiled at times and naive a lot of the time, but also incredibly strong. She reads like a 19-year-old should read. Elizabeth Gaskell has such beautiful language, and she writes characters that are so relatable even though they're from the Victorian era. I just adore this. This is one of the easiest classics that I've ever read and one of the best classics that I have ever read. If you have not read Elizabeth Gaskell's North and South, you have to, you need to. It is brilliant. Number 2 goes to A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Oseki. Maybe you're not surprised. If you've seen some of my videos, you probably wouldn't be surprised. This is fantastic. It tells the story of 2 characters, one a 14-year-old by the name of Nao. She lives in Japan and she is really struggling. She is dealing with depression. Her own father is dealing with depression. She's getting bullied at school, and she decides that she is going to commit suicide. But before she does this, she is going to write a diary. And somehow this diary finds itself into the hands of the other main character, a writer called Ruth. This is a book that mixes spirituality, magical realism, fantasy, depression, all into one. Ruth Oseki is able to handle so many difficult topics in such a skillful way. This book is, in my opinion, a masterpiece. It is about time, it is about the relationship, the beautiful relationship between a writer and a reader, and how you connect to someone just by reading their words, and how you can feel a genuine connection with a stranger without meeting them just because you've read something that they have written. It is just a beautiful book from the first page to the last page, and I urge everyone to pick it up if they haven't already. And finally, maybe you've already guessed it, but my number 1 book of the year is Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. This is just a book that is prose. This is gorgeous. And when I say gorgeous, I mean freaking gorgeous. Like, this is like the equivalent of a Michelangelo sculpture, in my opinion. This is just insanely beautiful. It reads like love feels. You probably know what this is about. Again, it is very popular right now because the movie that came out recently. It tells the story of Elio, who's a 17-year-old boy living in the 1980s in a villa in Italy. One summer, a young man by the name of Oliver comes to work with his father, and Elio falls for him. This is the best book about bisexuality that I have ever read. It is also the best book that expresses teen desire ever. This is just so incredibly beautiful. And like I said, this book reads as love feels, because love is as simple as it is complex. It's as devastating as it is wonderful. It is as joyous as it is heartbreaking. And this book is all of those things. Andre Aciman is a master of words. He writes emotion in a way that just, you have to take a moment after you read a paragraph in this book. You have to take a moment and just let that sink in, because the words are so incredibly beautiful. I have annotated so much of this book. I am in my 3rd reading of it. It is brilliant. It is amazing. It is a masterpiece. So yeah, those were my favorite books of the year. I hope that you have read some of these already because they're so wonderful that I really hope that you have read some of these. But if you haven't, I hope that you do get to them at some point. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and bye.